Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Now, back to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
All right, Matt Steinmetz and Daryl the Guru Johnson with you. Final hour of the weekend, and let's go out to Pittsburgh and visit with Jennifer Lee Chan, NBC Sports Bay Area. She's the 49ers reporter and host, and she was recently featured on a podcast, Brock Purdy's NFL Story. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. And first off, tell us about this podcast you were a part of.
Well, I'm regularly on the 49ers Talk podcast, but we've been working with Brock Purdy and his family to get his whole story of his first year kind of accessible to everybody. So we spoke to his parents when we were out in Arizona for the Super Bowl. Brock sat down with me for almost a half an hour just before kind of preseason started, and he talked about everything from draft day to, becoming the starter to the 8-game winning streak to Philadelphia and his recovery. So kind of an inside look on what Brock Purdy's gone through in the last, 365 days or so. It was very generous of his family and him also to let me kind of get to know them a little bit better and be able to tell the story.
Can you give me just listeners maybe a nugget, maybe something you learned that maybe we're not aware of, or just something you found interesting?
Kind of a fun one is that when he was actually drafted and got the call from John Lynch, he was at his parents' house. Obviously, it was a long 3 days, and no one knew whether he was going to get drafted or not. But every time he got a phone call, he would come back out into the room where everybody was, and he was like, nope, just a free agency call. So when he got the call, the actual call from John Lynch saying that they were going to take him with the final pick of the draft, he walked out into the living room again with a straight face and said, nope, just a free agency call. And he was kind of a little, I don't know, upset might be a little bit strong of a word for what he felt toward his mom, because he was like, I don't want a party. I don't want anyone. I just want close family. And she had planned this huge party. So finally, when he was sitting there acting sad in the chair in the living room, his name came across the ticker that he had been selected, and everybody in the household went nuts. 100 people, friends and family, poured into the house, and they ended up having a huge party for him. So kind of a fun story, inside look to what his family was going through on draft day.
Yeah, Jennifer, cool. I can't wait to see it. My partner, like a lot of people, they're in regard to Brock Purdy, it's like, I need to see more. And Jennifer, I'm on that train, but I can't ignore how exciting it's been. You were a part of training camp, OTAs. I'm going to call it a circus with all the reports on interceptions. What type of feel do you get from Brock himself, and what do you expect from him this season?
He has the same mental approach to the game that he did last year. He is calm, he's cool, he's unflappable. And I think really when you think about interceptions like that, he's letting it go. He's letting it rip is what he calls it. That's what Shanahan calls it. They'd much rather take those chances in practice than in an actual game. And the fact that he's doing that and not playing conservatively, I think speaks well for the 49ers offense. And, there's going to be some challenges facing some of these DBs that they've got early in the season. They're going to be tough for him. But the fact that he is willing to take a chance is, I think good for the team, and Kyle Shanahan seems to love it.
Jennifer Lee Chan joining us on 95.7 The Game. She's in Pittsburgh. She'll be covering the Steelers 49er game on Sunday. She works for NBC Sports Bay Area as their 49ers reporter and host. Let me ask you about two 49ers specifically. What do you think's in store for George Kittle on Sunday? Do you expect him to play? And then will Nick Bosa be under any kind of restrictions? How do you think Kyle Shanahan will handle his workload?
George Kittle is trending in the direction that he probably will play. Kyle Shanahan was just at the podium saying that he's questionable, which is, I think, just the safe bet in case there's any setbacks in the next 2 days. It's a long flight out to Pittsburgh, so, things can, with the altitude and pressurization, can kind of take a setback sometimes. Hopefully not with George Kittle, but I think he will play. Also, Nick Bosa, when he came back from his ACL, he had maybe a week or so of practice, and he was out there for 60 plays. I don't know if they are out there for 60 or 70 plays, that he's out there the entire time. They're going to see how it goes. But I think he'll definitely be on the field. Now, if, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a lengthy drive to start out the game, they might pull him out after a few plays just to, make sure he gets his wind back from being, in a football situation as opposed to just a regular workout situation. He's obviously in great shape, but being in football shape is something a little different.
Jennifer, if I were to tell you before I ask you the question, Brock Purdy can't be an answer, What's your biggest concern about this team going into its game Sunday against Pittsburgh? How would you answer that?
Kyle Shanahan's been his usual self in not revealing who the nickelback is going to be for the team. I think it's going to be Isaiah Oliver, but they've tried some different combinations. Both Talanoa Hufanga and Tashawn Gibson missed a few practices this week. Hufanga was for a personal reason. Gibson was for a foot issue. Charvarius Ward is, I think, also questionable. So I think when you look at where the weak spot might be, if there is one, it's in the defense, in the secondary. Just, as they get back into the flow of the season, I think the first couple games are always tough on a secondary because they haven't been practicing full tackling other than a few preseason games. So I think, being able to play together and working together in the back, is going to be a little bit more challenging. But I think once they get into the rhythm, they'll be fine.
Jennifer Lee Chan joining us on 95.7 The Game. She covers the Niners for NBC Sports Bay Area. Jake Moody, can you kind of tell us what's going on with Jake Moody? Is he limited in any way? And if so, I'm hearing a little rain maybe Sunday. I got to believe that may factor into the game plan if Kyle Shanahan, isn't as confident in Jake as he hoped?
I think he is confident. I mean, the guy has been absolutely lights out in practice up until his injury. Now he's trending again back. Kyle Shanahan says he looks good enough that he's going to go. He's full go for Sunday. I think it's just with, being a rookie and having those big pressure moments on your shoulders. He didn't perform well in the preseason games. He said after the second game that, he hasn't hit one clean yet. So, it's going to take some time for him to be, 100% locked down like we've seen for so many years with Robbie Gould behind there. And it's rookies as kickers just tend to have a few bumps along the road, and it's going to take a little time. But I think, looking at what he's done in practice, he's going to get there.
Jennifer, when you look at this team and you compare it to the 2019 team, at least on paper, that went to the Super Bowl, talk to us about that contrast. Like, are they equal, or do you think they're more talented?
It's hard to say without seeing a game, at least one, with all the pieces there. I mean, because Nick Bosa hasn't been there during training camp, so we didn't see him on the field at all during the preseason. Not that he ever did. But we haven't seen Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, and then who is going to play on the opposite side of Nick Bosa? That's the big question. Is it going to be Drake Jackson? Is it going to be Cleveland Farrell? Kerry Hyder's taking some snaps on the outside. So there's a little question on who's going to play opposite Nick Bosa. Obviously, with those three guys, those three key players, Eric, Javon, and Nick, those guys are going to get double-teamed a lot. So it's going to open up some opportunities for the guy, whoever is on the opposite side. But that's the question on the defensive front, which has been so strong. I think in 2019, they were pretty solid across the entire line.
Jennifer, let me last one from me. It feels to me, just from reading everything, and you're obviously down there every day, it does feel like the Bosa signing maybe has galvanized this team a little bit. Would it be accurate to say that maybe collectively this group has as much urgency as any team kind of in the Kyle Shanahan era?
That's one thing about this locker room. It is really a good locker room. It's solid. They have a lot of sense of urgency. There's a lot of veteran players on the team that have incredible work ethic. When you look at it, even without Nick Bosa, Christian McCaffrey is incredible workhorse. Fred Warner, these guys are, guys that really work hard during the off season. They train hard. It's a solid locker room. And yes, when Fred Warner heard the news about Nick Bosa, he went running into the locker room screaming. So, yes, they were very giddy that day when they found out that they had agreed to terms, and I think even more so today. So they're happy for their teammate and Nick Bosa getting paid, and I think it does kind of rally the defense together. But I think together as a team, this locker room is really solid, and they know that the opportunities are there right in front of them. But I think the sense of urgency is the same as it has been, I think probably since, 2019.
Jennifer, we'll get you out of here on this one. We took a call earlier, and we didn't get into it, but the guy was talking about Brandon Aiyuk is just a guy. And we all know this Niner team is loaded. But, Jen, I just think this guy's exceptional at what he does, and he's just improving. So he'll never really have the numbers, but I like what I see from his route running, his catch radius. What do you expect from Brandon Aiyuk this season?
I expect a huge year for him. He has been so smooth in his route running. He's really taken it to kind of an art level, and he's taking pride in his route running. He has been catching everything that gets thrown his direction. He's got an incredible chemistry with Brock Purdy, and you see him not just on the field, but in individual drills, in the locker room. He's a leader now. There's really been this kind of page that turned over in his story where he's this mature veteran, kind of older guy in the wide receivers room. He's taken the coaching. I think he's really going to have a big season this year.
Wow. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Great stuff. And can you do me one favor and keep Matt Mayoko in line in Pittsburgh?
That's always the goal.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Take
Great
it
stuff,
easy.
Jennifer. Appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good afternoon.
All right. That's Jennifer Lee Chan, NBC Sports Bay Area.
Aiyuk, the captain or leader?
This is what he does, Evan. This is what he does.